Halfway through the season, we've got yet another luxury coupe.
It's absolutely amazing to me. I would have thought this niche was already chock full. How could they possibly find room for another one?
Well, the makers still think there's plenty of buyers out there. Now, Acura's had a coupe in its Legend lineup right from the start. The new one follows closely on the new Legend sedan. The new coupe is a wonderfully sleek piece of automotive design, and the only real criticism I have is it's a little too big for its class. It's only slightly shorter than the sedan, and is the same width and height. Big as it might be, it has a sort of hunkered-down predatory look, and I like that a lot. Acura's new nose is used on Legend Coupe and sedan, in addition to the new Vigor. It's hard to tell the three apart when they come at you head-on, so maybe Acura could have used a little imagination here. But despite this rather generic feature, the Legend Coupe does make a more definite styling statement than its somewhat anonymous predecessor. The coupe is powered by a very satisfying 24-valve 3.2-litre V6 that pumps out 200 horsepower at 5,500 RPM. Only complaint about the motor is that it tries to run off with you when you start it in cold weather. Constant dabs on the brakes are needed to keep it in check until it warms up and behaves itself. Our test car was fitted with a 4-speed automatic transmission with a shift lever that looks like it belongs in a stealth fighter cockpit. It's a good transmission though, even if my choice would be the 5-speed manual. It lets the engine rev to redline before shifting to get the best out of the V6 motor. Power steering is fine for most situations, but it's possible to fool it during very fast turns. Other critics have noted this steering pump lag, a problem inherited from the old coupe. It's a very quick car and will zip to 100 kilometers per hour in about 7.5 seconds. Fuel economy is in the 11 litres per 100 kilometers range. Cost of the new coupe is $44,575, and Acura's base warranty is 3 years or 60,000 kilometers. Handling is exceptionally good, and this large coupe can be flung through tight turns like a much smaller sports car. Much of this ability comes from double wishbone suspension, front and rear, just like a Formula One car. Maybe Honda's racing people are passing on a few tips to the folks in the passenger car department. The coupe stops as well as it goes, with all-around disc brakes with anti-lock system. If you don't stop, there are dual airbags for the driver and passenger to plant their faces in. In the people and cargo packaging department, this is a more practical car than some rivals. The trunk is quite big and should hold a lot of luggage. The rear seats are reasonably usable, and up front everything is pure luxury, except for one serious shortcoming: headroom. If you're 6 feet or over, you can pretty well forget about owning a Legend coupe. No matter how hard I fiddled with the power seat controls, I just couldn't get comfortable. This is a serious shortcoming in a car for North America, and Acura should get something done about it right away. Otherwise, the driving position is great, and just about everything is well within reach. Also, the car has that wonderful solid feeling I associate with all Acuras. It feels just like a BMW or Mercedes, which is just what's intended, I'm sure. The climate control system takes a bit of getting used to, but worst of all, the air conditioning system falls short of North American standards. On a hot day with the sun on the car, it barely manages to cool the cabin, and I'm not talking about Arizona in the summer here either. With some reservations, especially headroom, the new Legend is very pleasing indeed and fits nicely into Acura's growing range. Competition includes Japanese contenders like the Lexus SC400, Toyota Supra and Subaru SVX. If you really want to get rid of some money, you could buy a BMW 850i or a Mercedes 300 CE. A more reasonable European is the Audi 90 Coupe, and we shouldn't forget about the elegant Jaguar XJS. There's not too much in this class from domestic makers, but in my view there are few better-looking coupes than the Ford Thunderbird SC. It's also the best buy of the bunch on a performance for the buck basis. Well, this one's almost right on, Ted, and I give it 7/8 of a tank, driving dollar value.
Yeah, I see what you mean about the headroom. Well, that's terrible. I didn't have that problem. My biggest problem with this car was the runaway acceleration. In the morning during a cold start, the engine is idling at about 2,000 RPM. If you don't pay attention, this thing will run away from you just like that, and it caught me by surprise several times.
Yeah, it's a very bad point, and other cars don't do it, so it must be something to do with the viscous coupling in the transmission. It just shouldn't drive the car along under those conditions.
Well, I think they probably put a chip in the box to make it run fast until the car's warmed up.
Getting back to headroom, how can they do this? How can a company with this much experience, Honda we're talking about here, pull out a car like this that is not adequate for the North American market. I'm not particularly tall, 6'1" or so, not that tall. There are lots of taller people than me who'd like to buy this car. I think that, quite honestly, that they get the tallest guy in the drawing office in Japan, sit him in the car and say, and he's about 5'11", right? And they say, oh, wonderful, it'll be great for North America, but it's not.
Maybe they should rent a couple of basketball players to see how tall people really can be. I didn't have the problem. I found the car to be very, very comfortable in every way, but seeing that footage of you, boy, that is really bad. But what would stop me from buying the car is that runaway acceleration. The only other car that I can think of that has the same problem is the new Mazda 929, and it's not quite as bad as this one, but boy, oh boy, that is terrible. They really got to fix that.
Yeah, it's very irritating. I found myself on cold mornings having to hold the car with the brake against its wish to chase off on its own, and I was almost amusing myself to see how long it would take to get up to speed without even touching the accelerator, because it's very bad.
On black ice, this thing would be a killer, because you would hit the ice, and unless you had the presence of mind to put it into neutral, you'd be braking but creeping forward at the same time, and you'd be in big trouble right away with the car.
That's right. But getting back to positives, this is a wonderful feeling car. It feels great. It feels really solid. It's a little bit big on the big side for my liking. It could be. It's only a yay smaller than the big Legend sedan.
I think it's one of the few cases where the sedan looks better than the coupe.
Okay, well, let's sum up here. Things I didn't like about that car: the terrible headroom, the inadequate air conditioning, and kind of vague power steering. Quite a lot on the plus side. Styling, very nice. Engine, great. Acura feel, I love that Acura feel. Summing up, driving dollar value, 7/8 of a tank. Almost perfect, but not quite.
Honda, fix that runaway acceleration problem. We'll be right back.